Each of us begins our individual life as a fertilized egg or zygote. Via the reproductive organs, the female produces an egg cell, also called an ovum or gamete, and the male produces the fertilizing seed cell, also called a spermatozoon or sporophyte. When they fuse into one cell, the zygote, all of the necessary means and information required for the growth of a mature man or woman are present, and with the proper nutrition and care, we are the result. In this program, we will examine the male and female reproductive systems, fertilization, pregnancy, and lactation. Our reproductive system is unique. Unlike other organ systems, the circulatory and digestive systems, for example, the reproductive system is largely inactive until puberty, and is also the only organ system that is different in the male and female. Although the objective for both male and female reproduction is to create a new individual, the means by which this is accomplished, as well as the workload, varies significantly between the two sexes, as we shall see. The organs of the male reproductive system include the penis, scrotum, testes, duct system, and glands. The female reproductive system includes the vulva, or external genitalia, vagina, cervix, uterus, ovaries, fallopian tubes, and mammary glands. During sexual intercourse, about 4 milliliters of semen, containing as many as 400 million sperm cells, are deposited in the female's vagina. Most of these sperm will die within 48 hours. If fertilization takes place, the sperm usually meet the ovum in the fallopian tube, requiring the sperm cells to swim from the upper vagina through the cervix and across the length of the uterus before reaching the fallopian tube, a considerable distance compared to the size of the sperm cell. Once the ovum fuses with a single sperm cell, its cell membrane changes, preventing fusion with other sperm. This process ultimately leads to the formation of a cell called a zygote, the union of an ova and a sperm. Within hours of fertilization, the zygote begins to develop and travels along the fallopian tube, reaching the uterus in approximately 3 days. When the zygote reaches the uterus and implants in the endometrium, the female is said to be pregnant. All of us begin life as a zygote, a single fertilized cell. Contained in this one cell are all the necessary instructions or recipes for building a unique human being, as well as all the tools and materials required to get the job done. Every organ system that we have studied in this series has its origins in this one cell. And, as we have seen, the human reproductive system is responsible for its creation and initial nurturing. Each organ system is crucial to maintaining our lives and completing even the simplest daily activities. The mere wiggle of a finger involves the integumentary, circulatory, muscular, and skeletal systems. One system, however, coordinates all the activities of these other systems, and without it we wouldn't be able to function at all. The nervous system. The nervous system coordinates the activity of the muscles, monitors the organs, processes sensory data, and is involved in every conceivable action. Catching a ball, for example, requires that your brain be instantly informed of the ball's trajectory and shape in order to coordinate the necessary interactions of sight and muscles. In the tips of your fingers, your nervous system can detect a difference of pressure of as little as 1/2 gram, which is about the weight of the head of a pin, and a difference in temperature of as little as 1 degree Celsius, or about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. In fact, the nervous system is responsible for my ability to breathe and speak these words, and your ability to hear and understand them. The nervous system consists of two types of cells, neurons and neuroglia. Neurons are the primary cells of the nervous system. Neuroglia are secondary cells involved in nourishment and structural support. What neurons actually do is transmit signals very, very rapidly. This is accomplished in two ways, within the neuron itself and between neurons. A typical neuron is composed of a cell body, dendrites, and axons. The dendrites carry impulses towards the cell body. The axons transmit them away from the cell body. The contact between one neuron's axon and another neuron's dendrites is called a synapse. You can see how an impulse is transmitted from one nerve cell to another. The central nervous system consists of the brain and spinal cord. Weighing about 3 pounds and roughly the size of a coconut, the brain, also called the encephalon, fills the top half of the head and is the largest and most complex mass of nerve tissue in the body. Composed of multiple interacting parts, the brain regulates widely different bodily functions, from involuntary processes like blood pressure, balance, and appetite, to voluntary processes like walking, thinking, and feeling. The cerebrum is by far the largest of these parts, accounting for 2/3 of the brain's size. It is divided in halves, called the left and right hemispheres, which are each further subdivided into 4 regions or lobes. As we have seen, the nervous system has a hand, so to speak, in almost everything we do, whether we are conscious of it or not. The nervous system also makes possible those activities which we most closely identify with our very sense of self: memory, thought, emotion, speech. Some of the most recent attempts to create artificial intelligence have yoked together multiple computers to use as many as 1 billion processing units, each processing unit simulating one neuron. But the ancient, ordinary human brain, with billions of neurons, is still many times more powerful than the best artificial intelligence yet developed. Just think about that. When we accidentally touch something hot, the heat sensation travels instantly along sensory nerves, and the impulse to jerk our hand away travels instantly back along motor nerves. The nervous system coordinates these kinds of quick response actions. However, another type of coordination is required to regulate our metabolic activities, such as causing our heart to beat faster when we're afraid, which prepares us for quick action if necessary, or maintaining proper glucose levels in our blood, which requires monitoring 24 hours a day, day after day. This type of coordination is performed by the endocrine system. The endocrine system works to produce a condition called homeostasis, literally standing still or stationariness. In this context, it is used to describe the proper balance of chemicals and other substances in the body, and the harmonious functioning and coordination of all the various bodily processes and organ systems. The endocrine system helps maintain this state of balance in the body by performing a regulatory role for all the other organ systems. The endocrine system consists primarily of glands and endocrine tissue inside other organs, like the pancreas, that secrete hormones directly into our bloodstream. Hormones are chemical messengers that travel through our circulatory system to other parts of the body in order to control or regulate a body process, such as growth, temperature control, or water retention. In some cases, the hormone targets a specific organ or tissue. In other cases, the hormone's effect is more general. Some hormones stimulate other glands to release yet other hormones. Hormones work by only binding to those cells which have appropriate receptors on their cell walls. Kind of like that child's toy in which holes and blocks have different shapes, and you must match the correct block with the appropriate hole. Once the hormone binds to its target cell and delivers its message, the cell goes to work and does whatever it's been ordered to do. There are three classes of hormones produced by the endocrine system: amino acid derivatives, peptide hormones, and lipid derivatives. Endocrine activity is also controlled indirectly by the hypothalamus, part of the nervous system located in the diencephalon or interbrain. This is where the nervous system and the endocrine system shake hands, as it were. The hypothalamus is involved in the control of our body temperature, emotions, and sexual activity, among many other things. These activities are initiated by the hypothalamus based on negative feedback. The hypothalamus accomplishes this in three ways. 1. The hypothalamus regulates the anterior pituitary gland by stimulating or inhibiting the production of pituitary hormones. 2. The hypothalamus releases hormones directly into the circulatory system through the posterior pituitary gland. And 3. The hypothalamus controls the endocrine cells of the adrenal medullae, which produce a very important hormone called adrenaline. In addition to the pituitary gland, the other glands of the endocrine system include the pineal gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid glands, thymus gland, and adrenal glands. As we have seen, our body's endocrine glands and tissues work behind the scenes, initiating complex chemical interactions to stimulate and coordinate a wide range of cellular and organ processes, from metabolism to reproduction. And all of this goes on every day, year after year, without any conscious control as we go about our lives.
Your brain, the most complex organ in your body, the seat of who we are, what we are, the container for our thoughts and our memories. In short, we are our brains. Our brains are built from many parts that perform different functions. Deep in the centre of the brain is the brainstem. This is the oldest part of the brain, and has also been called the reptilian brain. It controls many essential functions such as breathing and heart rate or blood pressure. It's whether we feel hungry or thirsty. It's also the seat of our most fundamental emotions: happiness or sadness, fear and love or hate. They all seem to reside in the brainstem. Sitting atop the brainstem is the thalamus. This is like an older version of our brain, which now acts as a gateway to the higher cortical regions. All sensory information from our bodies, whether it's sensations from the skin or a sense of touch, passes through the thalamus and is directed to the correct regions of the cortex for further processing. Surrounding the thalamus is a structure called the hippocampus. This is a crucial part of the brain. It's the seat of our spatial working memory. It lets us remember where we put those keys, or how to get back home from work or school. This region has even been shown to be bigger in London cabbies after doing the knowledge. The folded outer surface of the brain is called the cerebral cortex. Although it all looks the same, it's actually divided into different lobes that perform very different roles. The occipital lobe contains the visual cortex, and so is concerned mainly with vision. The parietal lobe is concerned with processing sensory information and integrating it with the visual information from the occipital lobe. The temporal lobe is the centre for memory and learning. It contains the hippocampus and a number of other regions that are required for us to recognise different objects, faces, sounds and environments. The frontal lobe is probably the most important part of the brain for defining us as who we are. It's where our higher emotions and personality reside, as well as language and social behaviour, lots of the things that we think of as being human. It's our decision-making centre and contains the motor cortex, which controls voluntary movement. At the back of the brain are the two lobes of the cerebellum. This region of the brain is a coordinating centre for movement, allowing us to move multiple sets of muscles in a coordinated fashion so that we can walk and talk, pick things up and put things down. So what are our brains made of? Muscle or bone? Well, there's none of that in the brain, even though it takes over a fifth of the calories you eat just to keep it running. Instead, your brain is made up of billions upon billions of cells called neurons. These cells are very specialised, with long extensions through which they talk to each other and form large and complex networks. These networks are the basis of how the brain does what it does. The processes are of two basic types. Dendrites receive incoming information from other neurons. Signals pass through the cell body or soma, where, if sufficient information is received, a signal is passed to the other neurons via the axon. This is happening in billions of neurons across the brain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's happening right now while you're watching this. So how do neurons talk to each other? Neurons are usually seen to use electrical signals to communicate. However, the act of passing the signal from one neuron to another is actually a chemical process. This happens at structures called synapses. These are formed from the terminal of an axon and a swelling on the dendrite called a spine. Electrical signals from the axon pass to the dendrite via a chemical messenger called a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter is stored in small vesicles inside the axon terminal, or the presynaptic bouton. When a signal arrives down the axon, one or more of these vesicles joins with the outer membrane of the bouton and releases its contents into a small gap between the axon and dendrite. This is the synaptic cleft. On the other side of the synaptic cleft are receptor molecules to which the transmitter binds in much the same way as a key fits into a lock. The receptor molecules act as pores through the outer membrane of the dendritic spine, allowing charged atoms or ions to cross. This entry of charged ions into the spine recreates the signal that was sent from the previous neuron, and in this way information can be passed from one neuron to the next and around the neuronal network. Although we've seen only one neuron here talking to one other neuron, in reality each neuron talks to many, many others and can have thousands upon thousands of spines. In this way, an extraordinarily complex system can be built that allows us to see, hear, to experience the world around us. It allows us to walk and talk, and to laugh and cry, and to be who we are. So we really are our brain.